there's two sides of the whole Chris Rock, uh, Will Smith. Now, what I did, the first thing I did before I started to judge it was I thought, because I'm recently divorced, I put myself in that situation. First of all, I probably wouldn't have hit Chris Rock, because then I would have gotten in a lot of trouble. I personally wouldn't have. Just wouldn't have worked with me. Will Smith, it might work. But I wouldn't have done it. Now, I probably would have wanted to. We probably would have just got up and left. But if it was a G.I. Jane joke, but I could see the reaction and see what happened after the joke, and feelings were hurt. And when I thought about it, I thought, well, I put myself in Will Smith's situation. So Will Smith sat there, he saw the joke, and then you see the reaction of Chris Rock. It's quite the reaction. He's enjoying himself. And then I thought to myself, I see. He's going to stand up. He's going to walk over there. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to walk over. What am I going to do? What am I going to do about the situation? First, I'm going to stand up. I'm going to walk over to the altar or wherever Chris Rock is talking, microphone or wherever he was. I think he was standing there. And I'm going to punch him. And that'll solve the problem with my wife's feelings getting hurt. Then I'm going to sit down and I'm going to say a few curse languages very loudly. And I'm going to say, do not talk about my wife in front of the entire world, and make a very strong point. I can tell you this, it's probably iconic moment in Oscar history, as opposed to maybe when Marlon Brando sent up the Native American woman to accept the award for him for The Godfather, where everyone was in shock. Like, where's Marlon Brando? It was kind of a moment of shock. That happens at the Oscars because emotions get high. But if it was, let's say, Bradley Cooper that said it, I can see. I wouldn't, I don't know for sure if it actually go over and hit somebody, but I can see. But if Chris Rock said it, I probably couldn't, because then I would have gotten more trouble for doing that, Because then they see a white guy hitting a black guy, and then he gets all into, the whole, okay, you have the right to do that, So I probably wouldn't be. But I don't think he would probably be cutting up my wife in front of the entire world. But I can kind of empathize. Now, of course, Chris Rock is a man. He does have a long career in stand-up comedy. He's known to roast people, even women. But he found out tonight not to say anything about Will Smith's beloved. So we found out that you don't do that. But anyway, he did, and he got hit in the face. I didn't believe it when I heard it, because I was driving back, and Linda told me about it. I didn't believe it. When I saw it, he walked over there. It really looks like he hits him. Maybe could have been staged. Nobody really knows but Chris Rock. There was no blood flying or anything like that. There was no pummeling going on. It didn't turn into UFC. But the reaction that Will did afterwards and sat down and then yelled aloud, pretty serious stuff, But then he goes up and gives a speech about protection of his family. Now, I've been married twice, and I'm very sensitive about my wives, especially my second one. And I've had some issues where I got to the point where I got to the point where I didn't even want like other men really looking or even talking to my wife without speaking to me first. And it ended in divorce, because my second wife is no longer around. Now, we did start 3 children together. We started a family. I mean, we began the lives of 3 children. And I got into some trouble at my church about it, saying some stuff on Facebook. Now, there was no physical altercation with anyone, but I did get some upset. It does happen. You say something about another man's wife, the insult is to that man. The guy can choose not to do anything about it, or he can choose to do something about it, Usually words are exchanged. Like, listen, I really appreciate if you wouldn't say that. Now Will Smith could have got up and walked over to him and stopped the whole... It was a heck of a heckling. It was a heck of a heckling. But he could have stopped, kind of walked over and said, listen, put him aside, But he didn't. He walked over there very firmly and smacked him. I don't think... It would have been really weird if he knocked him out. It looked like an open hand. I couldn't really tell the exact... this is a guy who played Muhammad Ali, Dance like a butterfly, sting like a bee kind of thing. So Chris Rock, if this was like an accidental joke, personally, I wouldn't have cut down another man's wife in front of the whole world, especially in a time of ceremony and Oscars. But I know the jokes are important, but now it got popped in the mouth, Certainly wouldn't want to try to fight him. Certainly wouldn't try to react to that, because he's defending his love and he's defending something that he cares about. And if he chooses to do nothing about it, then he could lose that spirit of love that's driving through him. Now, is it a Christian thing to do? No, it's not. It's not a Christian thing. Bible says to offer up the other cheek, and that's a bad thing. But I can tell you this: many Christian men will set that aside to protect what they have, even to the point of seriousness, of even doing more than just hitting. Luckily, it was just one punch. I can see his motivation. I can put myself in the situation. Am I going to do nothing about it? Am I going to turn the other cheek? Or I'm going to walk over there and I'm going to hit this man in front of the whole world to prove that I love this lady that's sitting next to me? In my case, I slandered people in the church. Okay? I use slander, which is serious. It's bad. Because my wife and I were struggling to a very high extent. We were struggling pretty badly with our kids, with finances, and we were among people in the church that had a lot of money. And I asked for a little bit of money for us to get by and didn't receive anything. I asked for a little bit of support because I wanted to start a film company and didn't receive anything. Now, of course, I'm not going to go over and B-slap, B-I-T-C-H slap. Another thing, being in church, being a godly man, I learned to clean up the language, what I call sailor talk. I try not to use any of it on YouTube. I try not to use F-U-C-K, all that kind of curse words. I try not to use any of that stuff at all. But I know that at that moment, when it happened tonight at the ceremony, that he just kind of lost his wits and wanted to make a point about protection. Yeah, you can protect that way. It doesn't go as far. And listen, I don't think slandering was good. And I apologize to everybody at my former church in Irving that I slandered against. But I didn't feel that we deserved to be neglected at that moment in our lives. Remember, my wife and I moved out of a house and into a ghetto-style apartment with two young children. My son was 4, my daughter was 3 at the time, and a baby on the way. And we had a perfectly fine house with a backyard. Everything was fine. And the church came in, picked us up, and moved us into a crappy apartment. And I was hurt by that. Did not want that action to happen when they had the money to bail us out, to keep us going as a family. They chose not to help financially. They were there physically and maybe somewhat spiritually. And yes, I'm a sinner and I made mistakes when I was living there, okay? I made mistakes. I was a sinful person, but they are too. It says in the Bible that every man has fallen short of the glory of the world. Every man has fallen short of the glory of God, not of the world, but of God. I became kind of worldly when I was living there, and I was not the saint when I lived in that house at the time with my family. was moved out, and I felt as punishment we were put into this crappy place. We were left alone. Financially, we were left struggling. I lost my job at the bank and had to start Ubering, and things got desperate. And I acted out by slander, and I felt bad. Will Smith tonight acted out physically by punching the guy. And there would be some people in the church, no one is going to be for fighting or physical altercation in the church, because he mentioned God, and what does God call us to do? Well, he calls us to be Christ-like. And when Jesus walked over to another child of God and smack him in the face, that's not a Jesus move. It's not a Christ-like move. We're called to be Christ-like. Regardless, like I said, we lose our wits. We get insulted. At times, we forget about that, and we go forth and hit. And at times, I felt bad to the point where I felt that type of anger, because love does make us do, I think, crazy things. Anyway, went on for 11 minutes to talk about it. This will probably be an independent thing. It's all over YouTube. I know Marlon Brando punched someone backstage at a theater, and they had a belly mount of gel. This is when Marlon was a younger actor, and the guy said something that insulted his character in a deep way. He was calling him a pretty horrible thing. So Brando stepped back, planted his foot down on the ground into the scenery, and popped the guy and knocked him out. They put Brando in jail, and they had a belly mount. But that happened on the theater in Broadway. But here it is right here. It's all over. And it's ridiculous, but it does kind of prove a point. I do want to see King Richard, but I wanted to wrap it up with this, and good reaction from Chris Rock. Yeah, I just got hit by, I just got the crap knocked out of me by Will Smith, kind of thing. To me, part of me thinks that it could have been possibly staged, but then part of me thinks it probably is real. But wow, this is going to make international news, Oscar history, and who knows the reaction. I'm sure Will Smith will probably apologize, or maybe not, I don't know. But then the acceptance speech shows kind of a sense of when Will Smith is talking about protecting a family, God has called him to do something, and at our highest moment, the devil can get a hold of us when we're at our highest moment. Remember when I got in trouble with the church and everything, I was on top of the world, having a beautiful son, a beautiful daughter, and another beautiful daughter on the way. I was on top of the world. That was my highest moment. Sometimes that energy, we just can't take it. We're being adored by God's love to a certain extent that we just can't take it, because we're not actually Jesus Christ. We represent him, we're Christ-like, but we're not that perfect. So what I'm trying to say is that as a man and a protector of a family, I can see the motivation of getting up, walking over, and just smacking the guy in the face. I can't take this any other way. I don't know how to solve it. But fighting doesn't lead to good things. It's not a good example for our children, because we don't want our children doing that. We tell our children not to hit. It is a very strange thing to see. Now I want to talk about maybe possibly the last few moments, method acting, because when I met Will Smith and I got to talk to him, he was playing Muhammad Ali, and this was at the Actors Studio when Lipton was alive, and we were at the new school. And I know that these characters kind of take over Will Smith in a way, because when he was being interviewed, there was kind of Muhammad Ali there in a way, even though he wasn't talking to Muhammad Ali's voice, but there was like a psychology that was going on. And I think in this event, you could hear Chris Rock say something about Richard right before he hit him. So they talk about the psyche changing, the rhythm and the patterns changing. And it's sometimes the character is kind of like a drug, because you get a feeling in becoming this other entity. Now, I was talking to this other guy in New York about acting and about creating a role. And I know I'm kind of going off track about acting a little bit, but I want to talk about Marcel Marceau because he would create this entity on stage, and I saw Marceau perform, and he had talked to me about when you're creating a character, you're also kind of creating an entity, an embodiment of something. It's a physicality. It's like this flow of energy that's going through you, and I think that may have been taking over a little bit to get up in front of thousands of people and walk over to a fellow performer and just to smack them in the face. I think there is some type of performance or character that was maybe a residue of, I don't know, this King Richard that had taken over for a moment, possibly, and was doing the deed there. And I know I've played some roles where you walk off stage and then you still feel the residue kind of that character that you were playing. So that's a theory on it. Was he kind of lost in that role for that moment? But I think maybe he just really loves his wife and he just doesn't want a stand-up comedian to get away with it. It happens. I mean, hey, as a stand-up comedian, it can happen. You can get heckled. People can throw things at you. I would never in a million years would never expect this to happen at an Oscar ceremony. Crazy stuff has happened at Oscars before. But I'm not going to say, go Will Smith, you did the right thing. Just go and hit the other stand-up comedian, because Chris Rock is still a dude. He's still a performer. He was just trying to get laughs. Of course, he made fun of someone's wife and got hit. That's just part of what Chris Rock has to go through. Personally, I wouldn't have tried to retaliate, because I probably would have hit him again. But I'm not going. I don't want to fence sit on it. I don't want to say what he did was right or wrong, but I can see why. And then of course the acceptance speech going into that, there was kind of like maybe a confession kind of thing. Like, maybe I did do the wrong thing. Maybe I shouldn't have hit this dude. Didn't really talk about it the whole much, but there was some kind of emotional response, like maybe I feel a little bit bad, for hitting this guy. Because for one thing, he has a lot. Will has a whole lot, and he has a whole lot riding on what he's dealing with. Another thing I want to say too is kind of the Stanley Kowalski kind of move too, because if you're violent like that, of course, I don't know. It could have just been a moment, like I said, he was taken over by emotions of being on top of the world, that this was going to be the moment. I mean, I knew he was going to win. I was 100% sure he was going to win. Everybody knew he was going to win for that role. And this was a time when he was going to go accept something that was completely great, the highest honor that an actor could get. And here he just can't take all the adoring love that God is showing, to this person. The edification's a good word in this moment. The edification of, I'm now going to take out, I am king. I am really king, It was a very king kind of moment. To me, it just seemed like it was kind of a character-y thing. And it makes you think about the method, too. Sometimes they can get lost. I know Jim Carrey, he kind of forgot who he was, supposedly, when he was playing Andy Kaufman. He just kind of forgot, the psyche. It's an interesting thing to be studied. It'll go down in Oscar history, for one thing. It's probably going to be talked about in marriage counseling. What is the right thing to do when your wife gets insulted by a stand-up comedian? And let me tell you something. I've been to the comedy club, and they do lash out, and they may, you could go to jail. Public assaulting someone publicly is carousing. Carousing at the Oscars. This one has 5,000 views. Another one had 145,000 views. Is it going to get attention? People going to talk about it? They're going to be talking about it for at least a good month. And unfortunately, this is going to make a lot of people some money. 59,000 views here. I mean, it's just going crazy. This will probably be my reaction to Will Smith hitting Chris Rock. Now, the thing that's different is I actually met Will Smith. He was actually, for a brief period, he was one of my teachers when I was at the New School University through 2001, 2002. And I got to ask him a question about Bagger Vance and working with Robert Redford. And he mentioned how Robert Redford would tell him that, you're just a twig in the Nile. And, you're this very small thing in this huge world, There's a lot of philosophy in Bagger Vance. You've seen it with Matt Damon and Will Smith. It's kind of this movie that deals in philosophy and focus and balance and being really good at golf. I haven't seen King Richard, so I'm sure it has some of that in there when he's training these two daughters how to be expert tennis players, And I felt when I talked to him that there was a sense maybe there was a little bit of Muhammad Ali there, because he was just either finishing up Muhammad Ali or it was about to be released, or he was finishing up. People were bothering him, telling him, hey, don't mess up Muhammad Ali and all this stuff. I felt like there was something else there. Like there was kind of like an entity in a way, like I was talking about, something that he had created that he was hanging on to. And I think that was there at that moment, because that's not exactly Will Smith there. But now he's an Academy Award actor that will hit a stand-up comedian and the impulse if his wife is insulted. So we know that that's kind of a thing. It was kind of a Brando-ish kind of thing, I don't think Marlon Brando would have done that. But Marlon Brando he was known to do that kind of stuff. Another actor that's known to do it is Sean Penn. Sean Penn has done it a couple of times. They deal, the emotion, it clicks and you never know. It overflows inside you. You get up. I think one of the worst things that I had done being an actor, I was really lost one time when I was working at Wesleyan, and we were on set in the Heidi Chronicles. I was playing Peter with his doctor, and my other friend was playing Scoop, and I was emotionally involved with the lead actress in the play. We were actually seeing one another, and something happened in the rehearsal. I got so mad, I picked up this glass ashtray and just threw it at this wall right in front of everybody and just smashed it. It can happen. It can happen in a moment of performance. And remember, these actors are there in front of the world being observed, and their focus and their reactions to things they're on the spotlight. And I think he felt at this moment that this was the right move. But as a once married man and as a family man, we don't want to teach our children to do this. And my dad used to do this kind of stuff too, and someone would take his parking spot. Supposedly he'd hit him or something like that. So family men will do these kinds of things. It does happen. There's another good movie, though, if you want to see a family man struggling and being in the spotlight, is a movie called Take Shelter with Michael Shannon. And there's a moment where something like this kind of happens and he gets put in the spotlight. I think this might be outside of the Oscars, meaning Will Smith was there, but I think he was saying, man to man, you're not going to do this. I'm going to get up, and I don't care about Hollywood. I don't care about King Richard at this moment. I care about my wife, and I'm going to show how much I care. So I think it's something. We're going on 23 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I'm still thinking about it. I'm still thinking like, man, this is some crazy stuff. I'll probably put a cover of the BITCH slap, and man, we'll see what happens tomorrow. See what Chris Rock says. See what Will Smith says. See if lawyers are called. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe not. Maybe they'll just be like, hey, this is a heated moment. Maybe one too many glasses of, I don't know, Red Bulls or something. I don't know. Maybe too much energy drinks or something. Who knows? Some crazy stuff. But as a married man, it is good, and as a family man, to keep your composure to a certain extent. But anyway, prayers go out to those that are performers, and it's just a tough life. Stand-up comedian, once a rapper, Will Smith going into now being an Academy Award-winning actor. it was out of this world to see. It was probably one of the most shocking moments that I've ever seen. I think at an Academy Award, never would think that would ever happen. Hope Chris Rock's okay. I'm sure Will Smith is fine. But anyway, good night to this particular vlog about Will Smith slapping Chris Rock from a white guy. But also I have Apache in me. Remember, I'm not completely white. I've got a little bit of Native American in me. We never know what we're going to do when we love someone, and we never know exactly what we're going to do. Love does make us do crazy things. And also another thing about Will Smith, I wanted to say, thank you, Will Smith, also for talking to me, at least, for acknowledging me as a student at the new school at the time. Thanks for answering my question, about Bagger Vance and being there that day. And I always felt guilty because I didn't know all the lyrics to Fresh Prince, because we all sang Fresh Prince. But you remember that. You remember that going there, Lipton being there. Lipton's passed away. And then we're all singing Fresh Prince and stuff. I don't know what Lipton would say about this, though. He definitely would bring it up. I don't know if he would support it or not. But crazy. This is going to be analyzed in the history of not only acting, but at the Oscar. This stuff's going to be talked about at the Actors Studio. People, they're going to have mixed opinions about it. These things happen. Actors sometimes flip, out. This is just some crazy stuff, man. Also, studying psych, there's a difference between a performer like Chris Rock and Will Smith. There's two different types of performers, two different type of you could say even actors from two different worlds. I kind of felt bad for him a little bit, because he's like, dude, it's a G.I. Jane joke. The level of joke was not that bad. But that doesn't matter. It wasn't about that. It was about what Will was going through, seeing the reaction of what was going on to his beloved, the thing that he cares the most about. Let me tell you something. As a married man, you're going to love your wife the most. Other than God, it's going to be your wife and then your kids. You're going to love your wife the most. That's going to be the most treasured thing. Listen, the man loves his wife more than he does Hollywood. He loves his wife more than he does the Oscar. He loves his wife more than he does anything in the world. I'll tell you what, my first wife and my second wife, I love them more than anything in this world. And I'm going to say especially my second wife, because she's the mother of my children. I love them more than anything in this world. Now, I don't have them anymore. We don't always get to keep the things that we love the most. But there's nothing more beautiful and more powerful in this world than the love of Jesus Christ. That's how I want to end this. Yes, we love our women. Yes, we love our wives. But there's nothing more powerful in this world than his love.